I'm Phil Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and welcome to my vlog, where it is both my pleasure and simultaneous mission to highlight my creative journey in hopes of inspiring you and giving you specific takeaway with the intent that your journey can be at least a little bit easier. Now, before I fully dive into everything, I would love to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already, that we get all the various lessons and episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. It truly does mean a lot to me, as I hope it does to you. Also, just while we're on this note, a few housekeeping things. Number one, if there's various things that you would love for me to touch upon in future episodes, please comment down below. Let me know what you would love, and I will do my best to cater to that. I want to make this as beneficial to you as much as possible. And the more I know what you would like, the better it is. Like, of course, there's YouTube analytics and things of that nature, or podcast analytics, because, you know, I put it out both in audio form and video form and stuff like that. But knowing what really resonates and where your pain points perhaps are, I would love to know that, and I can get really specific. So the more you just share, the more I can give you the insights that you're looking for, right? Also, allow me at the same time to also offer up that I do have my Patreon page where there's more direct connection, right? It's not one-on-one necessarily, but I do a monthly coaching session. There's deeper dives into the things that I talk about with, let's say, various templates, things of that nature that you can utilize for yourself, as well as, you know, things that I've shared, let's say, a QC report from a film, for example. Like, you will see my literal QC report, so you know what one looks like, right? And things of that nature. Also, I have my Substack, which is also free. That's a lot of stuff that's just in written form, right? So if you prefer to read, that is available to you there. All right, so let's get into things here. So the main thing that I've been working on is an application for a residency. Now, this is a residency for the Arbiters, which is my latest film project. This one is an animated one. And it's actually for the project, but the residency wouldn't be for me. It'd be for the storyboard and concept artist out of the Philippines that I've been working with. And, you know, he's one member of the animation team that I've thus far assembled. And it's quite a rigorous application, rightfully so. They only select very few people, and I'm sure they get tons and tons of applicants. So just the application process itself is a way to weed out the people that are not so serious about this, right? So it makes sense. And it's been an arduous process for sure, because there's a lot of stuff involved with it. But it is good because by doing so, it allows me to update the various things that I've already had in place, like a synopsis, a treatment, character bios, the universe of the world, and things of that nature. That's, again, been already drafted for the most part, but it hasn't been updated since the latest version of the script, right? And so it's good to kind of keep that fresh. And by compiling it in this way, the nice part is, with a few alterations, it can essentially serve as the film Bible, right? In TV shows, you have what is referred to as a Bible, right? It has, as I said, character bios, things of that nature. So that way, anyone who joins the show later on, even the writers and actors and so forth, they know the basis of the show. And in this sense, you know, a show obviously needs that because it has a potential longer longevity and things like that. Movie, in theory, is much more streamlined, but, you know, all the same, I think it's great to have all of this stuff, you know, in a condensed way for everybody, and to be able to present to, let's say, the actors in the future. You know, when they ask about, like, what's my character's backstory, I can give them this document and they can run with it, right? So that's the beautiful part about it. We can repurpose it for investors and things of that nature. So it's really beneficial. So it's not work that is being done just specifically for this. It will be able to be recycled, which is nice. And one of the things that also I'm creating out of this is we're putting this in a very nice presentational way. So it's a lot of text and things like that, but we created or are still finalizing the official Arbiters letterhead, so that way things just look that much more presentable, and that way no matter how it's passed around, it looks good and there's contact information and they know what it is regardless of like the page that they're looking at. So I'm really excited about it, but it's just been like taking so much of my time. There's one particular part where it asks you to write a treatment for 15 pages. And it's almost funny, like when you think about it, 15 pages can be anywhere between 8,000 to 10,000 words, right? And the script itself is only like 19,000 words overall. So it's kind of almost funny. It's like you might as well just read the screenplay, because we have a treatment version, right? That's 3 to 4 pages, give or take. But having to do 15 pages, you're essentially writing a short story. And, you know, the key with it is you want it to stand on its own. You want it to be engaging, all those things. So there's a whole writing effort just in terms of that. And this has been eating my time. It's not that it's hard, like in that capacity, but you do have to essentially adapt the screenplay into this now short fiction, essentially, is what it becomes. And it just takes time. And this has been like eating up my time, you know, like I always laugh. I always do to-do lists at the start of each morning or at the end of a night going into the next day. And, you know, sometimes there's simple tasks like, you know, that may take 15 minutes, but when it says like, you know, draft treatment for the Arbiters, like even a full day's effort, I might not be done with it, right? So it's just kind of funny that in these past few days I've had the opportunity to have a lighter schedule in terms of other stuff. And so I've been really focusing on this, and just every day, while I make great progress, I'm still not done with that treatment itself, let alone the totality of the application. I have till September 12th, which is good, but you know, it's just a lot of effort. And you know, if nothing else, I want to get at least a draft done, because I want other people to review it, obviously polish it up and things of that nature. So yeah, just been a lot, and I just want to get it done because I have other responsibilities to eventually get to, things of that nature. But that's been a big focus. The other thing that's been ongoing as far as the Arbiters has been the storyboarding process. So we're a few weeks into the storyboarding process and coming up on 9 pages of storyboards out of the script. So the script is, I think, 107 pages. So we're about 9 pages into the storyboarding process. Now, as things go later on, they will be more complex and things like that. But also, you know, it'll fluctuate. Some parts will be a lot faster, easier. Other ones will be more difficult in terms of scenes, you know, because you have, not to diminish it, but like talking heads, right? So if it's 2 people talking, you know, and they're talking for a page and a half, maybe 2 pages, that's pretty easy back and forth, right? And you can storyboard that fairly easy, versus like if you have a page that's an action scene, that can be quite a number of shots. So we'll see how it all continues, but it's really fun to see this come together and see the vision. And even just as we're doing it, as storyboards come in, I'm starting to see quite literally the story come to life. And already I can kind of tell, okay, what's working, what do we need to adjust, things of that nature. And that's the place you want to be. I'd rather make the adjustments to all these things sooner rather than later. And so That's a big component of it. And the thing that I've been doing is once the storyboard panels are locked, then I get those individual shots and start to put it in a Premiere Pro timeline. I mean, you can do this with any editing program, but I use Adobe products, and lay it out, start to get the timing, and create what's called an animatic, where you now, instead of just seeing images on a piece of paper, you see it sequentially like you would a movie. Now, obviously, it's just still frames and things like that, but it starts to just add another dimension to it, and you can better assess things that way, right? And generally, you just do scratch audio, meaning any of the characters that are in the script, I've been reading all the parts. So male, female, I try to shift my voice every which way. And it can be somewhat jarring, but it's not meant certainly for not even public consumption, but even beyond that, like it's not meant for anyone but more internal people. Like if we were to show this animatic to, let's say, even just investors or a studio or something like that, we would at the very least get myself and the rest of the team to do some of the voices, so that way it's not just, so it's still temporary voices and not the final voice actors, but at the very least it's not just me doing all the voices. It's at least, if it's a male voice, I can do one or two, and then other people from the production, they can do the other voices for the guys, and then any of the women voices, we have quite a number of women that are working on the project, so they can do those. So it's not going to necessarily have the performance, but it's going to be a lot less jarring than hearing the same voice and then me trying to pretend to be a woman and talk like this or whatever, right? That'll take you out real quick. So I've been working on that. That's been coming together slowly but surely. And the way it works is essentially at the start of each week, I go through the script and shot list out the next section, how I would want it to look. And then I have a meeting with the animation team, and we go over the previous week's storyboards, what's working, what needs to be adjusted. And then I convey, okay, here's the next series of shots. So all in all, it's about 30 to 45 minutes of us talking each week. And then, I'm available to them via WhatsApp and other such means of communication if they have any questions or things like that. But we record the meeting. I use I try to pull in references. So there's a website called Svitek. I believe that's what it is. And so I utilize that to pull in reference for framing or things of that nature, tone. So that way, as I'm describing these things, they have an understanding. A lot of times I'll draw just crude floor plans on a piece of paper, take a picture of that, send it to them so they know kind of from a bird's eye view just what's happening in the scene. How is the layout of the physical location, quote unquote, even though it's animated? Where are the characters going? Are they like there was one big scene recently where it's a crowd scene, and so we drew out the floor plan of that and kind of how people are going and stuff like that. So it just allows the storyboard artist to really put themselves into what's happening, so then they can figure out the framing and stuff like that based off of my overall directions for those things. So that's been working really well, and it's exciting to literally see it come to life. The other aspect that we've been working on is updating the budget based on the latest script, based on kind of new rates of animation, actors, things of that nature. Because when we initially did the budget, this was a year and some months ago, and it was based off of a very early rendition of the script. And also a lot of the numbers that we had plugged in for the movie we didn't know, right? So we guessed like, hey, it'll probably have, let's say, 200 scenes and yada, yada. Now we have a much more better idea of like, okay, how many scenes are there? How many locations, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to change. So, we still try to buffer it. But at the same time, at least we have a far greater a picture of what the budget should be, right? So we're working on that, and we're also working on what's called a finance plan. So we're speaking and working towards equity investors. So no different than, someone that invests in a startup company, let's say, or something like that. Works same way with a film where you have investors that would get equity in the movie, and for them, we want to highlight like, here's our finance plan, you see the budget, here's how we aim to recoup and things of that nature, all that good stuff, right? So I've been working with someone who's done this at a very high level, and it's been good to learn myself the process and see these things and whatnot. And what's nice is they've been asking me a lot of questions about, what do I want and how's my process, because, we want the budget to be reflective of that, as well as the financial plan, right? What am I looking to get out of this? Things of that nature, right? So that's all coming together, and that's a bit of a process too. That's going to be another probably 3, maybe 4 weeks till it's all really finalized. So, yeah, that's exciting to see it come together. And right now we've got some big decisions that we're essentially making, of who we want to work with on a larger level. Like there's a few opportunities presented to us, so we're assessing those deals, and it's not a straight knock out of the park. Like it's the next step to be able to continue working on this, but it has the potential to lead us further, and so we just want to make the right decision on whatever we go with. An interesting component that I learned as well is that, and listen, this is not a hard and fast rule, but that apparently it's generally harder to get talent to sign on with like a letter of intent for a voiceover role than it is for a live action role. Now, I'm not sure necessarily why. As always, you help your chances if you also, give them, let's say, producer credit or executive producer credit, and there's a back end, but even then, it's not necessarily guaranteed. And this comes from someone who's, on that side of it as an agent, has been in this side of the business at a very high level for 6 years. Again, it's not a hard and fast rule, but it is very interesting to sort of learn. So in that sense, generally you want to have full funding already secured before, and then once you have that, and you're like essentially able to make an actual offer and like pretty close to the actual recording of the voices, that's when you would make that offer, based on, again, the experience of this person. So thought I'd share that. So lots and lots of stuff there going on, for sure. That's eaten up a lot of my time. Haven't had too much time to work on, let's say, my film book that it's a filmmaking how-to book based on my experience of making my first feature film, and kind of cementing that knowledge and putting it out for the world. But, eventually once I finish up this application, then I hope to get to it, although there are a few caveats, which I'll talk about in a moment. But the other aspect is also my Annecy recap / vlog video, which there's going to be 2 of them. One's going to be my experience. One's going to be kind of an FAQ type thing. The vlog as of now is like 1 hour and 20 minutes. I'm hoping to get it down to 1 hour, and I think we can, with trims and other stuff and streamlining certain things. And then the FAQ probably be anywhere between 20 to 25 minutes, give or take. But I'm really excited for that. There was a snafu. The editor that I was working with, unfortunately, she had to leave the project due to other commitments, and totally get it, things like that. I look forward to working with her in the future, but that meant I had to find somebody else. So as of right now, my friend Marissa Serafini, who, if you guys are subscribed, you know that her and I do a monthly book club. So she's gonna do the edit for it. So I passed off all the things to her, and she's watched the close to an hour and 30 cut, and we talked about what I'm looking for, things of that nature. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of see this come together. That should be, let's say 2 months, give or take. But speaking of things, there's a lot of, September is going to be a busy month for sure, or just the next, let's say 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks, something like that. So in addition to the Annecy application, right, there's all the other work that goes into it. So as I made mention, the storyboarding, but also the budgeting, the finance plan, and then, these deals with potential investors, things of that nature. But beyond that, one of my best friends, Lauren LaGrasso, she's getting married next week, so I'm attending that wedding. We're planning for LA Comic-Con, so my team, we're going to be presenting kind of our journey at LA Comic-Con, which is September 26th through the 28th. I can't quite yet reveal the timing, the exact date and the timing of our panel. I will be able to release that shortly, but I can tell you we will be at LA Comic-Con speaking. So if you're there, would love to see you. If you're not there, don't worry. We're going to record it, post it later. And by the way, I've been doing this for a number of years now, and we've done various panels about filmmaking and, kind of an educational component. So yeah, you can check that out. Just go through the library of the podcast or on YouTube and just type LA Comic-Con and you'll see results. Obviously type in my name and stuff like that, but you'll see stuff come up. So I'm excited for that. I've got a trip that I'm making in mid-September it's like a weekend trip. So that'll take up some time. There's a big transition happening also in September that I've got to prepare for, not to mention a lot of work that will be happening. And then the sort of last exciting part, I think, at least off the top of my head, is on September 8th, one of my short films, 5-Minute Film School, will be getting its premiere at a film festival. So this is it's less than 6 minutes, including credits. 5-Minute Film School. So a little bit of that time is dedicated towards credit, but the film school part of it is 5 minutes. So don't come at me. But anyway, it's a short film that we've made, and you might have already seen it. It's not like it's not out there, but I wanted to really just kind of honor it. I don't know. And there was a film festival that, for the most part, I knew we could get into. So the Silicon Beach Film Festival. So I applied to it because, I don't know, I just wanted to see it honored on the big screen. And so it's part of Block UU. So if you go to siliconbeachfilmfestival.com/tickets and scroll to Block UU, you can get tickets, and we're part of that block. And that block is Monday, September 8th at 6 p.m. in Theater 3. And that is at the TCL Chinese Theater in Hollywood. So very great venue. I'm excited. With short films, you usually get multiple films, right? So in this block will be our film as well as other films. I don't know the other films, but it'll be nice to kind of have a crowd, me be able to witness other people's movies, and them to be able to witness mine. And all I'm hoping for is that people just kind of get the humor, right? It's a parody film. It being a film festival, I imagine there's going to be a lot of filmmakers, so hopefully they'll be in on the humor because it's 5-minute film school. But if nothing else, it'll just be a fun way to get together with some people I haven't seen, right? And honor them in that way and just be part of this festival. So I'm looking forward to that. So it should be good. So definitely like the next 5 to 6 weeks, definitely going to be very, very hectic for sure. Because even work-wise, there's some stuff that's been on hiatus due to the summer that's now coming back. And it's like, I'm both excited because I get to work on those things, but also, there's always other stuff. So it can be a lot. I'll have to like figure out how to pace myself in the correct way. So we'll see. Also, just in terms of fun stuff, next week I record, or by the time you're listening to this, it'll be the week of, we'll record Annecy 2, kind of not just a review, but a really in-depth analysis. So Marissa Serafini, Dimitri Panos, and I used to host this show called Anatomy of Movie. And that was years ago, and we loved doing it, and unfortunately, we just could no longer do it. And it's been years at this point since we last done a show. But I had emailed the team because Annecy 2 is just this incredible movie that I had already seen in Mandarin, but it comes out August 22nd with an English dub. And so it should be exciting to see it in English. So I will rewatch it, but this time in English. And this will be their first time seeing it. And it's the highest grossing animated movie of all time. I mean, this thing's already crossed $2 billion before it has its re-release in English. And so, like, I don't know if it's a top 5 film yet, but I have to imagine it's a top 10 film of all time, given that it surpassed the 2 billion mark. And yet most, even cinephiles within America, have no idea what it is. And so I just want to kind of talk about it, both from a story perspective, from a context perspective, like what does this all mean? And, just do an old school anatomy movie. We'll just call it something else, but that'll be something fun, getting the band back together. Also, Marissa and I will be doing our monthly book club recording, so you can look forward to that. So lots of stuff going on. One thing I want to say, as far as movies go, it's interesting, and this applies beyond just movies, but like, apparently nothing can just be average. If you look at podcasting, for example, and go on shows and see their ratings, like, it's not to say that there aren't 2, 3, or 4-star ratings, but it's generally either a 5 or a 1. It's either like the greatest thing or the worst thing. And you know what? I think we just have to like find a way to have some like sense of moderation and be like, you know what? This isn't the greatest thing in the world, but it's a 3 or 4. I think it doesn't have to be so ultimately divisive of like either a 5 or a 1. Like, for me personally, yes, I would love 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts, for example. Like, that feels great, that people would love it so much. But at the same time, listen, if you're honest, okay, maybe it's 2 for you, where it's not the worst thing in the world, but you're not getting something out of it. Or, it's just average. Like, when I listen to it, it's a 3. Or, you know what, it's slightly above average, but it's not like the life-altering thing to give it a 5. And I think we can apply that to all things: books, TV shows, movies, podcasts, jobs, like whatever, right? Like food. We don't have to be so extreme of it's the best or it's the worst. Like, it's okay to be slightly above average, or maybe it's below average. Like, let's utilize that. The last thing I want to touch upon, it was a nice gut check because I'd reached out to one of my friends, and they're normally quick to respond. They didn't respond, so I checked in with them, like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And turns out they were evacuated from a fire, and they lived not too far from me. But it was just crazy to realize how much stuff is happening in the world. And there was a literal fire not too far off that they were evacuated for, and I had no clue that there was a fire. And I know I'm not the only one, so it's one of those things that obviously it's hard to pay attention to everything. But my God, it's just kind of a realization of like how much stuff is always happening. And I do try to pride myself on staying up to date, but especially when it comes to friends, right? So forget about like just local aspects, but just when it comes to my friends, right? And I had no clue about this, so it was just wild. And I don't know if there's like a specific takeaway beyond that, but it was just interesting to think about and contemplate, like, what does that mean, you know? And if nothing else, it just means, yeah, there's always something going on. And when we talk about the idea of like empathy for people and stuff like that, it's just a nice reminder of that. You never know what someone else is going through, right? In fact, I know a lot of people that are kind of dealing with a lot. You know, I know somebody who lost a brother. I know someone who's literally, as I record this, we're finishing up surgery, things of that nature. And not all of it's bad, right? As I talk about my upcoming weeks, it's all good and exciting stuff. It's just a lot of stuff. So, you know, there's all these kinds of things that we just have to account for, and we don't have to know them, but just the idea that we give each other grace, you know, and we don't assume the worst. In terms of like malintent, like if someone's not getting back to you, it's not because they don't like you or whatever. It's just they're dealing with something, for good or for worse. And if you happen to find out, you know, congratulate them or offer them support however you can. So that's my ultimate message to you. Thank you as always for taking time to tune in. Comment down below to discuss anything that I may have touched upon, or as I said at the top of the episode, if there's specific subjects, questions, pain points you'd like me to talk about in future episodes to help you, by all means do so. If you'd like to deep dive further, again, Patreon is a way to do that. So, you know, consider supporting there as well. Thank you as always. I appreciate you. Hope to see you